Louise is not innocent. And Louise is not the daughter of Cuban exile. You are American. And you are the author of this book, Cuba Confidential. It's a masterpiece. I can assure you that. And the subtitle is Love and Vengeance in Miami and Havana. And the next year you will publish a new book, Without Fidel, a death foretold in Washington, Miami, and Havana. So you have to read it. And Louise, you started the International Journalism class at the University of California at Santa Barbara's Global Studies Department, and you are on the board of PEN, U.S.A., and UCSB's Kersey Wolf Center for Film, Television, and New Media. I said before that Louise knows everything about Cuban exiles and about Cuban terrorism. Maybe you can tell us, for example, why the FBI is after you, and you can tell us what you want about this issue.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Thank you, René, for inviting me. Thank you to WALTIC. I'm not Myra Montero, in case you didn't, but she's a wonderful writer, as is Anna Menéndez, and read their books, and René and Rafael, and there's a lot of interesting writers here. I'm sort of, I'm trying to think where to begin. I got in late, was it last night? Somewhere. But it's been a long journey here. So I'm going to try to organize my thoughts here. I think where I want to begin, there's so many interesting things that Rafael and René and Anna have just mentioned, but I want to sort of set the stage as I see it right now. And again, I am an outsider. I think of myself as an outsider looking into this incredible story. And again, I agree with Anna. When I look at Miami and Havana, when I call it the two Cubas, I always see more similarities than I do differences. I always think one of the great ironies of exiles that are so angry about things in Miami and Cuba is their biggest exportation is bringing the same thing. And they brought some wonderful things, but they also brought some not so wonderful things. But just in terms of this historical moment, we're in a unique historical moment of tremendous change, not just in Cuba, but in Miami. I mean, obviously, for those of you who might not have looked in a newspaper for the last 2 years, the great man, Fidel Castro, is dying. And we thought this would never happen. In fact, I'm convinced it will not happen, but that's another story. But he is, in fact, he has removed himself from the scene. He has, designated his brother Raúl Castro, and he has more or less, photo ops. Actually, it seems to me whenever he has a really bad time, when rumors become that he's become very ill or he needed another surgery or something like that, he suddenly sort of comes back, and he has, like last week, he had a series of meetings with Hugo Chavez, someone from China, another Latin American president. He sort of did 4 in a row. But for all intents and purposes, Fidel Castro is preparing his end. And you can be sure that he will prepare it as carefully and as meticulously as he has done every other part. He's actually already written his obituary. It's an interesting book. I recommend it to everybody. It's called Mi Vida in English. I guess it's My Life. It has another name though, My Life. It is fascinating. And one of the most fascinating parts about it is that, and he tells this in the revised version. There's a Spanish language version and a new version that he did in England, and in which he talks about, in the introduction, about how when he thought he was dying, the doctors were rushing him into surgery, he said, no, wait, I have to make some changes on my manuscript. And he's in complete Fidel fashion. He starts dictating changes. This is a man who's about to die, and he's dictating changes. Well, I think this is going to happen several more times. There's going to be more changes to go. And I wish I had his exact words in front of me, but somewhere I have it here. where he talks about how he tells them he has to make some changes on things. So obviously in Cuba we have this tremendous historic moment where this man who's completely dominated the Cuban life, the Cuban politic, the Cuban breath is moving on. And in Miami, what we could say to a certain extent is that what they call el exilio histórico in Miami, which is the old guard, the first wave of exiles that have dominated political life and culture in Miami, they too are moving on. Now some of this has to do with the same factor that Fidel Castro's facing, which is, you know, life, that life and death will claim us all. But what we have coming up in November is a historic election. We have 3 congressmen from Miami who are standing for Congress who actually have significant challenges. I would say one of those challenges, principally the one against Lincoln Diaz-Balart, is going to be the contest to watch. I would say of all the contests that to watch in November, that is the one. Lincoln Diaz-Balart against a man named Raul Martinez. Now, these names might not mean a lot to you, but I will tell you that Lincoln Diaz-Balart is the former nephew of Fidel Castro. His father was a man named Rafael Diaz-Balart. Rafael Diaz-Balart very quickly was the best friend of Fidel. They were so close he introduced him to his wife Mirta. One of the themes of Cuba Confidential and one of the things that I have tried to bring to the Cuba conversation is that one of the reasons this is so intractable, one of the reasons this compromise has been so difficult to achieve is that this is to a large degree a family drama. You have broken families, you have split families, you have a lot of bad blood. That is not to say there's not a lot of important, significant issues. That's not to say there isn't plenty of ideology. But what struck me as a reporter who's been sort of covering this on and off since '92 is how many times I sat down with somebody who was related to somebody they hate. So the Diaz-Balarts, the sons, and when I interviewed Rafael, the father who recently passed away, he said to me, "I will not live to see the death of Fidel, but my sons will." And the sons not. And in Lincoln Diaz-Balart's heart, he wants to be the next president of Cuba. This is well known in a certain group. And I mention this to you because for the last 8 years of American policy, George W. Bush has listened to one person about Cuban policy, and that happens to be Lincoln Diaz-Balart. There's another nasty piece of business that Lincoln Diaz-Balart and his former uncle, they have something that is like an annual torture for Lincoln. They have the same birthday. So every August 13th, when there's a great big dog and pony show, oh, it's Fidel, he's alive another year, Lincoln kind of slinks away in Miami. No one's going to know about it. That he was born on, it's truly a cursed man. But in Lincoln's heart, he believes that he should be the next president. And George W. Bush is somebody who was willing to accommodate that.